At 68 years old, I sold the company I built from nothing for $58 million. To celebrate, I took my only son and his wife to the finest restaurant in the city. He smiled. He toasted my success. And then, when he thought I wasn't looking, he tried to kill me. What my son didn't know was that someone else was watching, and that one quiet warning would set in motion a plan to dismantle his entire world, piece by piece. If you believe a legacy is something you build, not something you inherit, stay with me. The restaurant was the kind of place where silence had weight, broken only by the clink of silver on porcelain. Across the table, my son Kevin and his wife Brenda were performing. Their smiles were too bright, their praise too polished. "$58 million, Dad," Kevin said, shaking his head. "Can you even wrap your head around that number?" I nodded and sipped my cranberry juice, tasting the familiar bitterness behind his words. For 40 years I had poured my life into Callahan Logistics. One used truck, sleepless nights, grease under my fingernails. Kevin had never seen the sacrifice. He only saw the number. Brenda placed her cold hand on mine. "We're just so proud of you, Jack. Let us take care of you." It sounded less like affection and more like a proposal. I looked at my son and searched for the boy who used to ride shotgun in my first truck. He was gone. In his place was a man with the cold gleam of entitlement in his eyes. My late wife, Alicia, had warned me years ago. "He sees you as a bank, not a father," she'd said. I had thought she was too harsh. Now her words felt like prophecy. After dinner, Kevin pulled Brenda onto the dance floor. Another performance for my benefit. I turned back to my glass. Cranberry juice. Nothing stronger. My doctor had been firm. My heart was strong but not invincible. That's when a security guard approached my table, calm but urgent. "Mr. Callahan, I don't mean to alarm you, sir. I saw your son. When he came back to the table a few minutes ago, he thought no one was watching. I saw him pour something from a small vial into your juice." The world stopped. I didn't gasp. 40 years of hard negotiations had taught me to control my face. I gave the guard a single nod. He disappeared. My mind raced. Kevin's constant questions about my will, his frustration when I said I planned to live another 20 years. It wasn't just greed. It was murder. My son wanted me gone. When Kevin and Brenda returned from the dance floor laughing, I put on the performance of my life, clutched my stomach, claimed indigestion, insisted on an Uber alone. As I stood, I accidentally knocked over the glass, and under the cover of the spill, folded the soaked napkin into my pocket. My only evidence. In the back of the Uber, gripping that damp napkin, I felt no anger yet, just a cold, chilling clarity. The trap had been set for me tonight, but I was the one walking away with proof. I didn't go home. I couldn't face the photographs, the memories now poisoned by what I knew. Instead, I found a 24-hour diagnostic lab downtown, a place Callahan Logistics once used for employee testing. I handed over the sealed napkin. "I need a full toxicology screening. Tonight, money isn't an issue." 3 hours later, in a diner booth with cooling coffee I never touched, my phone buzzed. The report, metoprolol tartrate, at a concentration 25 times the standard dose, a beta blocker. In a man with my cardiac history, it would trigger a heart attack within 2 hours, one indistinguishable from a natural death. The perfect murder. My son had researched my medical file, acquired a specific drug, and waited for the exact moment to slip it into my glass, all while toasting my success minutes earlier. My first instinct was to call the police. I dismissed it immediately. A public arrest, a trial, tabloid headlines. Logistics mogul, poisoned by own son. Alicia's memory dragged through the mud. This wasn't a wound the courts could heal. This needed precision, not procedure. I called my lawyer, Cynthia Walsh, daughter of my late business partner, the closest thing I had to family besides Kevin. She met me at her office before dawn. I told her everything. She read the lab report, her knuckles whitening. That son of a bitch. He finally crossed the line. She wanted to call the DA immediately. "No," I said. "He tried to kill me. And a trial makes my legacy into his crime. I don't want punishment. I want a correction. I want to take away the one thing he was willing to kill for. Cynthia's smile turned dangerous. Her father's smile, the one he wore before outmaneuvering a competitor. This isn't a criminal case, she said. This is a demolition. She had a team. Ex-FBI, ex-IRS, discreet as ghosts. Within a week, they'd have a full picture of Kevin and Brenda's life. While they dig, I said, I'll play my part. The oblivious old man. Let their greed make them careless. The next morning, Kevin called, voice full of manufactured panic. I told him it was just indigestion, nothing more. My heart was fine. I felt his relief through the phone, and then I dropped the bait. I was setting up a large family trust. Cynthia was drawing the papers. The silence on the line was 5 seconds of pure greed recalculating itself into hope. Dad, that's incredible, he stammered. The hook was set. For a week, I played the grateful father, while Cynthia's investigators moved like sharks. Then the first report arrived. It wasn't just money trouble, it was collapse. Kevin and Brenda were over $2 million in debt. Maxed credit cards, a leased Porsche and BMW, both months from repossession. A second mortgage bled dry on the house I'd gifted them. Private high-interest loans from lenders who didn't send polite letters. Foreclosure proceedings were weeks away. I understood then that this hadn't been about funding a dream. It was about escaping a nightmare. My $58 million wasn't a bonus to them. It was a lifeline. They weren't just greedy. They were cornered, and cornered animals do anything to survive. 4 days later, the second report was worse. Investigators had recorded Brenda contacting high-end art galleries, posing as a grieving daughter-in-law. My father-in-law's health has taken a turn. He's on his way out, I'm afraid. He's tasked me with handling the disposition of my late mother-in-law's art collection, discreetly. Alicia's collection, not an investment, her soul in oil and canvas. The landscape we bought in 5 installments when we had nothing. The wild blue and orange piece she bought the week she beat cancer the first time. Brenda had been photographing those paintings during her visits, cataloging my dead wife's memory for sale, while bringing me soup and asking about my health with rehearsed concern. She wasn't checking on family. She was casing the house. That was the moment my grief for the son I'd lost finally died. You can't redeem someone who's already sold what isn't theirs to sell. I called Cynthia. I'm done gathering intelligence. I want to build a wall of consequences so high they never see daylight again. The final report came the next day, and it was the coldest of all. A medical power of attorney filed at my hospital 3 months earlier, my signature forged, close enough to fool any clerk. Using it, Kevin had pulled my full cardiac file, my medications, my dosages, my allergies, my exact points of weakness. Then the investigators traced a string of burner phone searches back to him. Fast-acting heart attack-inducing drugs, lethal dosage metoprolol for a 200-pound male with cardiac history, how to fake a natural death, will an autopsy show an overdose? This wasn't a moment of weakness. It was a plan 3 months in the making, built with the same cold precision I once used to build my company. My own son had studied me like enemy territory. Whatever thread still connected me to the boy who once rode in my truck was finally, irrevocably cut. Set the meeting, I told Cynthia. Tell them it's the signing of the family trust. Tell them to come ready to celebrate. The conference room on the 40th floor was built for power. Mahogany table, leather chairs, gray sky pressing against the windows. Cynthia laid out 5 folders like a surgeon arranging instruments. Kevin and Brenda arrived glowing, dressed for a victory lap. Kevin hugged me for the first time in 20 years. It felt like being embraced by a stranger. Brenda's eyes kept flicking to the folders on the table, greed flashing and vanishing in an instant. Once the assistant left and the door clicked shut, Cynthia began. Item 1. She slid the toxicology report across the table. Kevin's triumphant face went rigid. Item 2. The financial statement. Over $2 million in debt. Foreclosure scheduled for next month. Brenda's color drained completely. Item 3. The gallery transcript. Brenda's own recorded voice describing my failing health and Alicia's collection for private sale. Kevin looked at his wife like he was seeing her for the first time. Item 4. The forged power of attorney and the search history. Lethal dosage. How to fake a natural death. The room went silent as a tomb. Brenda finally whispered, "This is a mistake. We didn't." "There will be no family trust, Kevin," I said. My voice wasn't angry, it was just tired. Cynthia delivered the final blow. The full $58 million has already been transferred into an irrevocable charitable trust, the Alicia Callahan Foundation. It funds grants for young artists and wildlife conservation, the two things your mother loved most. It's already operational. You have no access. You will never see a cent. I laid out their two choices. Option 1. Cynthia calls the district attorney within the hour, and they're arrested for conspiracy, fraud, and attempted murder. Decades in prison. Guaranteed conviction. Option 2. They sign away every future claim to my estate. Sign over the deed to their house, already quietly purchased by the foundation. Pack one suitcase each, and disappear from my life forever. In exchange, I wouldn't press charges, though the evidence would stay locked in escrow, ready to surface the moment they broke the agreement. Neither of them spoke. Kevin's trembling hand reached for the pen first. He signed without reading. Brenda's tears fell onto the page as she added her name beneath his. They stood, said nothing, and walked out of that room and out of my life. That was 3 months ago. Today I'm standing in a small, bright gallery downtown, the inaugural exhibition of the Alicia Callahan Foundation. The walls are full of bold, unpolished color. Young artists, seeing their work valued for the first time. A woman with paint-stained hands is explaining her piece to me, something chaotic and beautiful that reminds me so much of my wife. I'm listening, I'm smiling, and it reaches my eyes. I used to think a legacy was something you handed down, a torch of money passed from one generation to the next. I spent my whole life building something to give my son. I was wrong. A legacy isn't what you leave to your family, it's what you leave in your community. By taking away a fortune he hadn't earned, I gave Kevin the only thing my money could never buy him, the chance to build a life of his own, on work and character instead of inheritance. Whether he takes that chance is his choice now, not mine. We turned a son's betrayal into a stranger's first exhibition. We turned poison into paint. In doing that, I honored my wife in a way that selling her collection never could have. Not by locking her memory in a silent house, but by letting it fuel someone else's dream. I didn't find peace in revenge. I found it in purpose.